came to Cayuga County in 1970 as principal of Newnan High School, and I had been assistant superintendent of Holmes County, which is Perry and Warner Robins, and it was so, and we were, all the school systems were having to integrate, and it was so negative down there with lawmaking that I decided I wanted to get out of that area. And I applied. In fact, I didn't apply, but one of the school systems down there below Macon offered me the superintendent job there. And I found out from the Atlanta paper that they were looking for a principal here at Newnan High School because Dr. Lee and one of the board members had a meeting there, and they said they were going to see that the minority students in Cayuga County had a better education than they've been receiving, and they were going to see that they get a quality education through integration.
What part of the job did you enjoy the most?
Well, I always enjoyed being a principal. That's what I wanted to be when I got out of the service. I wanted to apply. I guess I was the only principal in Georgia that ever got to be a principal with only 2 years teaching experience, because they were not going to, after I qualified to be a principal, they were not going to give me a certificate because I didn't have 3 years of public school principal. So I went up to Atlanta and told them, look, I would have 5. I was called into the service, and I would have 5 years as a teacher if I hadn't been called into the service. So the guy who was head of the certification department, he says, "You're right." He said, "It make me more like you over there." And said, "If you can find a superintendent to hire you, I'll issue you a principal certificate." So his assistant, who's a lady, said, "No, you can't do that. That is one violation will not be violated. That is one that will not be violated." And so I did get a job as a principal because they couldn't find anybody else to take it. And at Wheeler County, down in Glenwood, Georgia. And so he issued me a principal certificate for that job. And that's how I became a high school principal. Of course, I had grades 1 through 12. And that's how I became a principal.
What was the most challenging aspects to the job?
Of that job?
Yeah.
Well, one thing, there was no money available at all. I had to put some of my take-home pay was $160 a month. And I had to take part of that money to put it back into the school program to keep it operating. That's why we couldn't find anybody to be the principal. Because the superintendent told me, he said, "You're the only person that would take this job that I could find." I said, "Yeah, I guess so." But that's how there was no money available, and there was no library. Somebody had gotten in there during the summer and thrown all the books, most of them, out of the window, and of course they were rained on, and the library didn't operate. And that particular school was certified by the Georgia certification. And when I submitted the application to become certified for joining. Superintendent called me up there, says, we can't send this in there. Says, you won't be certified. That's good. I said, well, I gave us every break I could. He said, just take last year's form and just copy it and then send it to me. I said, look, I've already signed this and you've got it and you can change anything you want to on there, but I'm not going to change it. And so we became certified. And the old guy who was going around checking the schools to qualify as, he came to Linwood and he was praising the school. Oh, you're doing a great job. You got a good school, yeah. Didn't have a library, still didn't have a library. But it was all satisfied for him,
How would you describe the relationship between Newnan High School and the community of Newnan, Georgia?
Very fortunate for us in education here. Most of the leaders of this community stuck with the public schools. The leaders who didn't, like the mayor didn't want, at that particular time, want anything to do with the public schools, integrated. And he had given Tom a bad time too, with some relationships. But most of them, and on the school board, the leaders of the community, most of them, 5 or 7 school board members, and most of them were 100% for the public schools. And that really made all the difference because they backed us up when the community didn't accept some of the changes that were being made. And because they couldn't accept it, they would become frustrated, and of course they had to have somebody to focus on to get that frustration out, and that would be the administrators, the superintendent and the principals, and particular principal of high school. And so I told my wife, when we was, I had been offered a job as a superintendent when I was offered this job. And I told my wife, I said, now, I want you to know that there's going to be a tremendous amount of criticism of me as a board member, as a principal of Newnan High School. Because most of the people in the community, it's such a change that they won't accept most of the administrative changes that I make. And I said, if you can't accept that, we won't take this job. And she says, I'll accept it. Okay. And when the criticism really got tough, I told her one day, I said, look, well, she was complaining to me. She said, I want to get out of this place. I said, you told me, and I told you what would happen here, and you said you would accept it. I said, so you got to accept it. And she said, okay. And the mayor told me, he says, you're the most criticized person we've ever had in this community.